TGI Raiders Friday Live. Let's go, nation. What's going on? Welcome to TRU Raider Podcast. I'm your host, TRU Raider. Now, really, I want to start talking. I'm going to start off just by talking about Gardner Minshew. Is he actually the problem? Now, there's been a lot of debate going on over the last couple of weeks. You know, is the problem with the quarterback? Is the problem with the offensive line? Is the problem with the offensive coordinator, with Luke Getsy? And what is really going on that's causing these major issues? Now, the first thing that I'll say before I get into any of this is that our run game is not 100% blamed on Zamir White. You know, a lot of it's coming from the offensive scheme and the O-line just not being able to get it done. Well, also, you know, our passing game isn't looking super good. You know, and so one of the things I was looking at with the passing game is, you know, what is causing the passing game not to look that good, right? Are receivers not running good routes? Is the play call awful? Is Gardner Minshew not executing where necessary? You know, and I definitely want to get into that. So I'm going to pull up this video, man. I'm going to give a big shout out to Raider Films, man, because really, you know, that's where it's at, man. This is you know, I like to watch Raider Films breakdown of a lot of things, man. And you know, I want to share this clip with you guys real quick, right? So, you know, here on this play, man, Gardner Minshew, you know, he's going to go ahead and drop back a little bit, and you see a little scramble. You know, he's getting out of the way of pressure, dumps it off to Alexander Mattison. On this screen, Alexander Mattison gets the first down. No big deal, right? But if you look at this other angle, you're going to see Trey Tucker. This is the same play. Trey Tucker is wide open in the middle of the field. Wide open. Gardner Minshew cannot see him over the offensive line, and so he scrambles around and dumps it off. Now, there are actually being several plays that are going like this. And I got to say that I am starting to get to a spot where I truly believe that Gardner Minshew might be a bigger part of the problem than we originally thought. You know, because, you know, I've talked about it all the way through the offseason and everything, that I wasn't really sure who I wanted to see do quarterback. I feel like Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell are 1A and 1B. And I actually had some hope that Gardner Minshew, okay, they brought him in to get off to a quick start. You know, they believe that we stood the best chance of winning early with Gardner Minshew. And there's speculation that part of that is because our offensive line is all banged up. You know, Colton Miller's not up to speed. We've been having Cody Whitehair at left guard instead of Jackson Powers Johnson. And, you know, and maybe it's that they believed that we're going to need the scramble ability of Gardner Minshew, you know, in order to get some things done. But what we're seeing is that Gardner Minshew is actually he's exiting the pocket too early. He's not making throws that he should make, and he's putting pressure on himself. You know, there's a lot of plays that we're seeing that he does that little scramble thing, and he doesn't really look like he even knows where he's going to go. And then the play falls apart, and he's running into sacks, or he's, you know, throwing on the run and not doing well at throwing on the run. And so I'm starting to really think that Gardner Minshew is not executing the way that we need him to. Do I fully blame that on Gardner Minshew? No, I think Luke Getsy is still awful. I think Luke Getsy's play calls, we got run, pass, punt going on all game against the Panthers. Run, pass, punt. Run, pass, punt. And it's a little bit too predictable. Also, I think that he's doing too many plays that aren't to Gardner Minshew's style. And what we're noticing is that when we do 4 deep and they're all on the outside, Gardner Minshew is being able to make these plays. And the reason he's being able to make these plays is because he can actually see what's happening. He can see who's getting open, and he can make the throw to them. And now when we have things like Trey Tucker, like the play I just showed, running up the middle, when we got Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer right in the middle, Gardner Minshew's not being able to see them, right? And I've been seeing plenty of tape where there's wide open receivers and he's not making that throw. And I'm wondering, because I remember when we first hired Luke Getsy, I was thinking, is it Luke Getsy or is it Justin Fields? And I was watching some tape, and what I was seeing is breakdowns where they would show Justin Fields would, the first read was not open, and then he would scramble. And, Minshew's doing a better job of not just looking at that first read before he scrambles, but there were so many times on tape where Justin Fields on the Bears had somebody wide open up the middle of the field, and he just was not getting them the ball. And we're starting to see the same trend with Gardner Minshew. So it's like, is this a quarterback problem? Is this a play call problem? What is going on? I'm starting to think that, while Aiden O'Connell lacks the scramble ability that Gardner Minshew has, we aren't seeing a great thing when Gardner Minshew extends plays. What we are seeing is that Gardner Minshew has been sacked 11 times. 11 times, right? And the whole, ideal thing about him is that he's not going to take as many sacks. He's been sacked 11 times in 3 games. And that is just awful to watch. So if we're going to have a quarterback that's continuously getting sacked, I'm wondering if Aiden O'Connell, being that he's a taller quarterback, that he has better field vision than Gardner Minshew, I'm wondering if we see a significant difference if Aiden O'Connell were to come in and run these same plays, right? I've heard a lot of people talking about like that Getsy's system is more built for a quarterback like Aiden O'Connell than Gardner Minshew. And now I'm no football expert, right? I'm just a Raiders fan. But it looks like Luke Getsy doesn't really do great with a scrambling quarterback. He didn't do great with Justin Fields, and he's not doing great with Gardner Minshew. And I'm still a believer that if we get Luke Getsy out of the way, Gardner Minshew will play better than he's been playing. We saw in that fourth quarter against the Ravens, absolutely tore it up. It looked beautiful. And that was Luke Getsy getting away from the things that he's been trying to install in this offense. And I think that if we continue to just do the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, we're going to keep getting what we've been getting. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So either Luke Getsy's got to come out and start calling a whole different kind of style of play, or we're going to continue to see this abysmal, awful offensive line. We're going to have no running game. If we have no running game, then we're going to have a lot of trouble in the passing game. And if honestly, I think that Gardner Minshew's time might be up. Antonio Pierce talked about it early on. When he first announced that Gardner Minshew was going to be the starting guy, he said that we're going to see for the first quarter of the season, right? Well, this Sunday wraps up the first quarter of the season. And he talked about it, right? He talked about it a couple days ago where he said, that he would not rule out the potential for a quarterback change. And then pretty quickly, there was this news release that came out that said Gardner Minshew is going to be the guy for week 4. So, it's obvious to me Antonio Pierce is already looking at Aiden O'Connell thinking this guy's going to give me a better shot. Aiden O'Connell is a quarterback that helped him win this coaching job. And I don't know, man. I kind of have always felt like Antonio Pierce isn't as high on Gardner Minshew as he is on Aiden O'Connell. So we're going to see what that looks like wrapping up, you guys. I definitely want to see if we put any changes in this Sunday against the Browns. If we do not make these big changes with our play calling and getting that run game going on an appropriate level, not run, pass, punt, then I believe if we don't get that going, then this will be Gardner Minshew's last start, and we're going to end up putting Aiden O'Connell. You guys let me know what you think about that. Oh, man. Raider Deb, salute. I'm here for a few before I skip out to my luau. Okay. Are we talking like Lulu, skip to my Lou, or are you going to a luau? Let me know what's going on with that, man. Uh, James Williams looks like McDaniels and Carr. It's been brutal, man. There's been too many times over the last couple of years that I've seen that same kind of play calling that we had against the Panthers. It's like run, nothing, run, nothing, and then we're passing on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and then the quarterback's got one shot. They call an awful play that doesn't get it done. And then we're punting, man. And then everybody blamed Derek Carr for the 3-and-outs. Oh, there's all these 3-and-outs. It's Derek Carr's fault, And really, honestly, I'm not like a huge Derek Carr guy. I like Derek Carr. I think that we'd be doing a hell of a lot better if we had Derek Carr with this team, But I think that we have bigger issues than that going on, because like Derek Carr, okay, he's looked pretty good with the Saints, but he had his faults, and my biggest beef with getting rid of Derek Carr is that we didn't get any trade compensation for him. The fact that we didn't get any kind of trade compensation for him really pissed me off, because there was teams that were offering, good draft picks in order to get Derek Carr. And Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler shit the bed on that, and they totally just gave him up for a big fat zero. And that really sucks to lose assets and not getting anything in return. Like, at least with Khalil Mack, we got some good picks, even though those picks didn't turn out to be very good, except for Josh Jacobs. And Josh Jacobs, as we know, is not with us, and that's a big part of why our running game sucks. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes, man. We'll see how that goes. Raider Ryan's up in the building. That's cool, man. We got a couple of our model Raiders. Just getting your ass out of work. That's what's up. That's what's up. That's why it's TGI Raiders Friday. That's how I am, Deb, man. I'll be listening to different content creators, and usually I'm driving or I'm working. I'm doing something and just listening in, man. So appreciate you. So it's on the thumbnail. I'm going to go ahead and pull up our injury report. Our injury report doesn't exactly reflect exactly what's going on, but it's pretty close, right? So our injury report is getting kind of large right now. Maxx Crosby's on the top of that list. Ankle injury. He did not participate Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Adam Schefter put out a post this morning that said both Maxx Crosby and Davante Adams are out. Davante Adams has a hamstring injury. He had a limited practice on Thursday, did not participate on Friday, and he's ruled as out. So we for sure do not have Maxx Crosby. We do not have Divine Diablo. We do not have Davante Adams. And then we don't have Malcolm Kuntz and Marcus Epps, who are out for season. Also on top of that, Thayer Mumford, right tackle. He's listed as doubtful, but from my understanding is that he's not going to play, and we're going to roll forward with DJ Glaze. Now, DJ Glaze has looked pretty good, stepping in for Thayer Mumford, and there's a whole debate on, who's actually the better right tackle. Thayer Mumford definitely has more experience, and I think that DJ Glaze will end up being better than him, but I don't really know that he's better right now today. He's going to need those reps, and with Thayer Mumford being out with injury, DJ Glaze is going to get those reps, and I really hope that turns out good for us. Colton Miller is full participation, so he's good to go. Cameron Richardson is listed as out, the rookie cornerback. Tyree Wilson, he's full. He's ready to go. He said he's 100%, and really, he's actually been playing pretty good, or at least this last game he played pretty good. A lot of people were talking about how well he looked. Personally, during that Panthers game, I didn't really see anything that stood out like on the eye test, but in week 3, he had one QB hit. He had a 75.4 grade versus the run, which was the 5th highest among all edge rushers in the NFL. He had 3 run stops, most on our team. he was the only player with more than one, and he had 0 missed tackles. So really, I mean, and there was reports that he's really bringing that high energy in practice with Maxx Crosby being out. And I'm hopeful that he's really going to have an opportunity to step into his role and prove to us that he's worth where he was drafted. Now, the Browns are definitely injured, and their offensive line is mostly backups right now. So, really, if he does not get it done this Sunday against the Browns with their second string offensive line, then it's going to speak for a lot. Christian Wilkins hit the injury report, but he was full participation. He's going to be good to go. Michael Mayer, tight end. I don't even know what NIR personal means. That's what his injury is listed as, but he did not participate on Thursday or Friday, and he's ruled out as well. So we're going to be without both Davante Adams and Michael Mayer, which I think that they'll either, Harrison Bryant he's a pretty good tight end, right? And originally it was going to be Michael Mayer and Harrison Bryant out there for tight ends. So let's see if this guy steps up. And then in Davante Adams' absence, either Ramel Keaton or Tyreek McAllister is going to be getting that play instead. It could be DJ Turner, but I have a feeling that they're going to either bring in Ramel Keaton or Tyreek McAllister. So we're going to see what that looks like. And then Amir Abdullah is also listed as questionable. So the Raiders have been bit by the injury bug. And we're not the only team, you guys. There's a lot of teams that are having this problem. If you look at the Browns injury report, they have even more players on their injury report. Now, the game status is not listed on any of these, right? But they have both guards, 3 tackles. Let's see, running back. Both the forwards are injured. Myles Garrett has been been in limited practice, so we'll see if he even plays or if he's even up to speed. Let's see, who else have we got in here? Jerry Jeudy. It looks like he's full participation. He's going to probably play. Dang, there's another tackle on there. So they're pretty beat up as well. It's not just us. So really, we're going to see, what this depth looks like. And if we don't have the kind of depth that we originally thought going in, it's going to show this Sunday, I got to tell you guys, man, every game I've been going into it just super excited. I can't wait until Sunday, and then going into this week, I don't feel quite that same way, right? After that loss to the Panthers, that one hurt, man. We looked awful, and I don't think that we're gonna look awful like that again. But this Browns team, man, has been getting just beat up on. They're not scoring very much at all. Let me see. I want to pull this up real quick because it's actually been pretty sad for them, right? And knowing our luck, they'll activate. They'll put Winston in to start, and then all of a sudden he'll pull an Andy Dalton, right? Let me see what's up with them. So they put up 17 points against the Cowboys. They put up 18 points against the Jaguars. And then they put up 15 points against the Giants, right? So they have not scored over 20 points in a single game all year. And it's really going to be up to our offense, which is not great to hear, right? Because we got a lot of players out on the defensive end, and if we can hold them under 20, I don't see why we can't go out there and put up enough points in order to walk away with a win, right? But You're dooming, but if you look at the scores that we put up, we only put up 10 points against the Chargers. We put up 26 against the Ravens and 22 against the Panthers. I think that really some of the keys to this game are going to be next man up. If we got next man up actually showing up in that position, because we're going to have Janarius Robinson on one side and Tyree Wilson on the other. Having Luke Masterson and Amari Gaynor fill in at linebacker. We're going to see what it looks like to have DJ Glaze get a start. And then Jackson Powers Johnson, man, I really hope that we see a lot more of him. His tape looked extremely good in the limited play that he got against the Panthers. I'm not really sure why they put him at right guard. I don't know if they're thinking about moving Dylan Parham over to left guard again or what that's going to look like, but I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot more of Jackson Powers Johnson, and I really hope we do, because I think he's going to be the key to unlocking our running game. If we can unlock that running game through Jackson Powers Johnson, all of a sudden the whole offense is going to look different, right? What's up, Eric? How you doing, man? Salute, salute. Surprised you're not at work right now. I don't even know your schedule anymore these days, man. Now that you ended up moving out where you did, man. Big shout out to you, man. Glad you're here. So yeah, another key that we're gonna see is Deshaun Watson has not looked very good at all, right? At all. Actually, I want to pull up his stats real quick, because this guy is an expensive quarterback. He has not thrown over 200 yards in a single game, right? I have not seen my 2 cents on a live in a minute. Salute, salute, man. That's what's up. Glad you're here. Okay, you're off Fridays and Saturdays. That's what's up. Salute, salute, Raider Nation. My 2 cents. Glad you're here, man. So yeah, I mean, Deshaun Watson threw for 196 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Giants with a rating of 89.5. He threw for 186 yards and 0 touchdowns. Both these games, 0 interceptions with a rating of 78.8 against Jacksonville. And then versus Dallas, he threw for 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, a rating of 51.1. So really, Deshaun Watson he's not playing well, man, and it's pretty likely that the Browns are going to see a scenario where they're benching, what was his contract, like $230 million or something like that. So really what we need to see is that our defense holds Deshaun Watson up to the standard that he's been setting all season long, is that he is not getting the passing game going. He's not even getting rushing stats, right? So he's just kind of looking awful. And so it wouldn't be the first time that we saw, some quarterback that's struggling and we're thinking this is perfect. We're going into this game with this quarterback that's really struggling to get it going. And then all of a sudden they look in superstar form when they play us for some reason, right? Even with our stacked defense. And Eric, you're right. And we were talking about that for a minute, where having Adams and Crosby both out is very disheartening. Crosby, this is going to be Maxx Crosby's first game ever in his career that he's missed. And without the disruption of Maxx Crosby, even against the Panthers, even though he had limited play, even though he was injured and not up to full speed, he was still getting double teamed. He was still drawing those double teams, and that really opens things up for a lot of other people on that defensive line. Granted, we only sacked Andy Dalton 2 times. That's really not that big of a deal. I just thought of, I wonder how many times Deshaun Watson has been sacked. Let's see if I can pull that up real quick. Holy crap. The Giants sacked him 8 times in one game. 8 times in one game. So he got sacked 6 times versus Dallas, twice versus Jacksonville, and 8 times against the Giants, which puts him at a staggering 16 sacks so far this season. And now they got a bunch of their offensive line now, and that gives a lot of opportunities for these other guys because we still have a solid defensive line, right? Part of what we talked about in the offseason with our defensive line being so great was not just that we had Maxx Crosby and Malcolm Koonce. It's that we have some quality depth on this line. The interior actually has some really good components now. And I don't want to just get all shaken up. Oh, we're missing Malcolm Koonce and now Maxx Crosby. Now we're screwed, right? I think that these depth pieces really need to step up and show that they're as solid of a piece as we think that they are. And Eric, you're right, man. And I was talking about it before you jumped on, man, is that, Garner Minshew is making some big, big mistakes, man. If you go back and look at the beginning of the video, man, I played a clip from Garner Minshew where he's totally just not having the ability to see Trey Tucker up the middle of the field wide open. And I've seen some other clips, man, where this is happening on a regular basis, where there's open receivers up the middle. Garner Minshew cannot see them over the offensive line. And so then he's doing this scramble thing where he's getting himself in trouble and essentially making really, really not great plays, man. Eric, I truly believe head coach got the locker room to where we need to be. Are you talking about like the whole thing where there was like the business decisions of last week against the Panthers and then moving into this week, like getting people on the right mental frame? Because, they still haven't even said what those business decisions were, right? And that's actually kind of pissing me off that he's going to call people out, on the, in a press conference, and then we don't find out what it was. And now people are speculating, oh, Davante is not playing, it was him. Oh, Michael Mayer wasn't playing, it was him. And, those things could be contributing factors, but I don't really think that that's exactly what's happening. But what really sucks is that we're probably never going to know. I don't think that they're ever going to come out and be like, hey, it was this guy, and this is what we did about it. When Antonio Pierce was asked about it in the presser, I think that was yesterday, he said it's being handled in-house, which tells me that they're not going to come out with it, right? That's happening behind the scenes. They handled it and then moving forward, right? And I'm really hoping that he was also talking about Luke Getsy. He did mention that he was talking about our play calling and that our play calling is not what it's supposed to be, but also we're not getting execution. So if it's the play calling, I guess he could be talking about Patrick Graham as well. But, really, I want to see if Antonio Pierce really, really wants to earn this job, and keep this job. I think that he really needs to call out Luke Getsy. Tell him, cut it out. Like, this whole run, pass, punt thing is not going to work, man. And then setting up Zamir White for zone runs. Zamir White is not a zone run back. He's a power back. If you put him in power scheme, he's going to get some better runs. And he's not doing well, right? And if we just continue to try to run the ball the same exact way, it's not going to work. I don't see it just magically fixing itself. Like watching tape on it, it's just like you see it happen, right? Where Zamir White believes right here is where the hole is supposed to open up. And the whole offensive line just crumbles and he just runs into one. Not being able to make that decision of like, hey, look, there's a pile of people. Maybe I shouldn't run into them, right? Just kind of hoping that the hole is going to open up. And I get it, right? I've seen plays where it looks like nothing's about to open up, and then all of a sudden there's this little crack that opens up, and boom, running back takes off through there, right? But we're not being able to execute that. And a big part of that is our offensive line. My 2 cents. Do you feel AP waiting for the O line to come together before starting in O'Connell? Con all 12. Con all. Okay. So I think that's part of it. But also, I think that it's above his head, right? And my 2 cents, you haven't really been here on the lives, man. So I've been saying this thing for a while where I don't think that Antonio Pierce chose Gardner Minshew. I don't. I honestly believe that Antonio Pierce wanted Aiden O'Connell and that he got outvoted, man, because they said it very clearly. It was between Antonio Pierce, Tom Telesco, and Luke Getsy to make that decision. And I think that Tom Telesco and Luke Getsy said, we want Gardner Minshew. And so when Antonio Pierce announced Gardner Minshew was going to be the guy, he did not look happy about it. And he said for the first quarter of the season. So really, he was only guaranteed those 4 games. And last week, he was already talking about, not ruling out a quarterback change, right? Which means Antonio Pierce is done. I don't think that he wants Gardner Minshew to even start this game. And really, if we start off 1-4, it's going to look really terrible. But that can be the fuel that we need in order to make the changes that are necessary. Now, if we win against the Browns, which we really should, even after that awful game against the Panthers, we're still the favorites to win this game. If we win this game, starting off 2-2 is great, right? I really thought that the Browns were supposed to be a way better team than they have been. And I really thought that we were going to win against the Chargers, lose against the Ravens, win against the Panthers, and then the Browns game was a toss-up and that we might start 2-2. And with that being the case, okay, well, we win against the Ravens and the Browns and lose to the Panthers and the Chargers. It doesn't really matter that much, right? Well, except for the Chargers being in our division. But starting off 2-2 would be great. But then what do we do, right? What do we do if we start 2-2, we win this game against the Browns, and, is it that – and, okay, let's say we don't go into this game and look like a different team, right? Let's say we go into this game and it still looks like the same garbage that we've been getting, and then all of a sudden we bust out with a win. Then what? Do we make those big changes, right? Does Luke Getsy get called out on his shit? Does Gardner Minshew get benched for Aiden O'Connell? What does that look like? Probably not, right? Then we just continue to roll forward without making any changes. I don't really like that. Now, if we go out against the Browns and there's like some different play calling happen, some different execution happening, and all of a sudden we're looking like a really good team without Maxx Crosby, without Davante Adams, without Michael Mayer, without Thayer Mumford, without Divine Diablo, without Malcolm Koonce, without Marcus Epps, then it's like, all right, why, okay, we made the adjustments that we needed to make. Because, see, for me, I'm not attached to Aiden O'Connell being the quarterback, and I'm not attached to Gardner Minshew being the quarterback. What I want to see is us have the proper people playing that are going to execute what we need to execute. Let me get into some of these chats real quick. I am also nervous about Garrett going up against DJ Glaze. Garrett is injured, so he's not going to be to full speed, but I do believe he's going to play. But it gives DJ Glaze a great opportunity to go up against a really high-rated defensive edge. And just win, baby. No exceptions, no excuses. Super Comrade, what's going on, man? Good to see you over here, man. Translation, a DA trade. There was no injury news on Davante at any time this year. The guys who aren't right is Colton Miller and Maxx. So right now, Colton Miller is full participation. He's supposedly not really injured, but he's still on the report. We're going to see what that looks like. And, you might not be wrong. I did see some people talking about that the hamstring injury is the go-to when people are, faking an injury to sit out when they're looking to try to get traded or things like that. The same thing happened with Josh Jacobs at the end of the year last year. He was dealing with this mysterious hamstring injury. I think he was just trying not to get injured in the last couple of games because he was trying to get a new contract with another team. Davante Adams has made it extremely clear that he wants to be here and that he doesn't want to go anywhere. Any of the pressers that he's been doing, the Up and Adams show, all of this stuff, he's like, he thinks it's laughable that every single week there's all this speculation from the media about, oh, Davante Adams wants out. And he's like, if I wanted out, I'd be out. Now, I do think that there are limits for everybody, right? And there's going to be a limit where Davante Adams finally says, you know what, man, this sucks. This is garbage. I'm getting 4 receptions in a game. I need to move on, right? And really, if we do that, it's probably going to be on our terms instead of his. I think that if we continue to play garbage football like how we have been, at some point they're going to make a decision that we are not a win now team and that we need to get assets for Davante Adams. And if we do that, as long as we get appropriate trade capital for Adams, I'm not going to be upset. Do I want him to remain a Raider? Yes, I do. But I don't want to see him in a position like how Derek Carr left and we didn't get anything in return. It's like if we're going to get rid of Adams, then we need to get the appropriate draft capital to be able to move up and get our quarterback of the future. Plain and simple, man. Plain and simple. Tucker Owens, I feel like Getsy needs to make calls up in the box like PG did last year. I think you're completely right on that, Tucker. And I hope that we come out, the game opens up, and then all of a sudden we see Luke Getsy up in the box, man. I have a feeling that would make a big, big difference. Of course, it's nice for an offensive coordinator or any coordinator to be there on the field with the players and be able to do some things down there. But we saw a huge shift in Patrick Graham as soon as he went up in the box, and he's remained there, right? What I want to see is us do something different. And Antonio Pierce was saying in the presser, some what do you say? I don't know if he said some coaches, some coordinators, or some teams, right? But he said some people go towards their player strengths, some people go towards their scheme. And he's like, and I believe that we need to be a what works team, right? So he's not saying we need to do what our players need and we need to do what our coordinator wants. He was like, we need to do what works. And I really hope that he's holding this staff to a high standard when it comes to that, because if he just says that in a press conference and then doesn't really hold them to this, they're just going to do what they've been doing, which is sucking. Would anyone trade Adams for running back Braylon Allen? So this got brought up. I think it was Ernest that brought it up, man. Unless it was you, man. I don't know. And the way that I personally feel about that is that, yes, it would be nice to have a running back, but if we're going to trade Davante Adams, I think that what we need to do is get some draft capital and get a quarterback, because if we don't go and get an actual serviceable quarterback, like a good quarterback, because we're seeing, things like Jaden Daniels and, I can't think of his name right now. Holy shit. That's so weird, man. Anyway, it left my mind. The guy from the Texans, man. CJ Stroud. Shit, man, that was weird. CJ Stroud came out, took his team to the playoffs immediately, right? Jane Daniels, yeah, he didn't look too good in the first 2 games, but that 3rd game against the Bengals, he looked damn good, right? Setting records and everything. And so, I believe that if we're going to move on from an asset like Davante Adams, we need to go find that quarterback of the future, because once we find that, building around that is going to be so much easier, right? Instead of years like this year, right, where we're going in and we're like, yeah, we're stacked. Our offense looks great, except for quarterback. Our defense is amazing. It's going to be great. And then all of a sudden, here we are, 1-2, not even confident that we're going to be able to beat teams like the Browns, who look horrible, right? So if we get that quarterback and secure that position, then all of a sudden we can go win with a lot more confidence. Super Omicron. In the old days, if Adams missed a game, Al would have said there are no plans to trade Davante Adams. If so, it'll happen next season. So, I don't really think that he was what the business decisions, right, that Antonio Pierce was talking about. I don't think that Davante Adams was really involved in that. Honestly, I don't think we're moving on from him. Honestly, I think that he's just kind of injured. I could be wrong. But that's just what it seems like to me. I don't know, man. We'll see what happens moving forward, man. I'm at this spot, man, where I think that we need to make big shifts, right? I think that if we're not going to get rid of our offensive coordinator, which at first my stance was that's a bad decision, right? You get rid of an offensive coordinator this early in the season, and then all of a sudden you end up in a position where you have like a Bo Hardigree like last year calling plays, and is that really going to be better for us? But it's kind of come to this point where I'm starting to think it might be. And my biggest question is it really Luke Getsy or is it Gardner Minshew not being able to execute? Because, like I said earlier, man, we're seeing these plays where Gardner Minshew is not being able to see wide open receivers in the middle of the field. And, it's not even like he has pressure. The guy is wide open, and then Gardner Minshew just starts to scramble because he knows it's been too long. And then he ends up running into a sack or dumping it off for a screen pass, and I don't like seeing that, man. What QB in 2025 draft is generational talent worth trading for? In my honest opinion, Raiders rush to grab a QB and go with whatever to wind up having to find another QB shortly thereafter. And that could be the case, man. And so that's yet another reason why it's like moving on from Davante Adams it's a really, really risky thing to do. And we're not going to be able to do something like trade a Davante Adams for a Jaden Daniels and those kind of moves. So really, it's like, who do we look at, right? And I'm not too familiar with this coming quarterback class. I'm trying not to look at all that yet. And I don't really watch college football. But I'm hearing really good things about Cam Ward, Carson Beck, Shedeur Sanders. There's a handful of these quarterbacks. I've been hearing good things about Ewers, even though he's out on injury right now. There's a few of these quarterbacks coming up in this next draft that could be pretty significant difference makers for the Raiders. And really, if we don't turn this season around, we might not have to trade up for one. I still believe that at this point in the season, we have 14 games left. I still believe that we can be a 10-win team. Con all 12. That's what you're calling Aiden O'Connell? Con all 12? Con all 12 came in last week and found Myers multiple times where Minshew had all game. Wish was taller. Wish I was a little bit taller. Wish I was a baller. There we go. Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it, right? And a lot of people were saying, oh, it was in trash time. They were just playing prevent. And that's part of it, right? But they were still rushing 4 or 5 guys. So, I don't know, man. At this point, I really actually, the more I talk about it, the more I think about it, the more I honestly believe that Aiden O'Connell could do a better job than Gardner Minshew. In fact, I wanted to roll with him, not because I thought he's the clear-cut better quarterback. I wanted to roll with him because I think that he has a higher ceiling than Gardner Minshew, because Gardner Minshew, we already know who he is, right? He has proven in 3 games that he is no Rich Gannon and that he's not going to come out here and just totally have an MVP season, right? He's not doing that. And that was the whole thing that everybody was saying about Gardner Minshew, right? And so since he's not doing that, I think that seeing what Aiden O'Connell has now in year 2, now that he's had a whole off season, let's see it, because if not, man, we got 2 big things coming up ahead, right? One is that there needs to be a coordinator or scheme change with our offense, or we need to run a different quarterback. And if we don't see either of those, I don't have a lot of confidence that things are going to get different. I really don't, man. And I don't want to be all negative, man. I'm normally an optimistic guy when it comes to the Raiders, right? But right now, after watching, because let's face it, in all 3 games, we did not look good. We looked awful against the Chargers. We looked even worse against the Panthers. And we squeaked one out against the Ravens, man. We looked pretty awful except for that 4th quarter. There was a little bit of shine in that 3rd, but really it was that 4th quarter where this team really came to life and we actually saw some good play happen. So, like, really we've played, 1 or 2 quarters of good football out of 3 games? Significant different makers: QB Cam Ward in Miami, Shedeur Sanders, Colorado, and maybe Quinn Ewers. And I honestly feel like so there's not a whole lot of teams that are in super need of a quarterback this year. This last draft, we saw history be made, right? And we saw 6 quarterbacks go in the top 10. I think a lot of these teams have gotten their quarterback. And so it makes it a little bit easier to get your hands on one of these quarterbacks that are going to be coming out of this next draft. And Shedeur Sanders is one of the teams. I mean, the Raiders is one of the teams that Deion Sanders already said that he'd be good with, right? Cam Ward, I want to watch more tape on him, man. I've only seen a little bit, but like his stat line looks insane, dude. Let me pull this up, man. Cam Ward. 22 years old. In 4 games, he has 1,400 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Now, it doesn't always translate over. He's 6'2", 223 pounds. He's a good-sized quarterback. He had a rating of 204.9 in his last game. Jeez. Oh, no, that's this season so far. Jeez. Let me see something real quick. Yeah, he hasn't had a single game throwing less than 300 yards. He's only been sacked twice. I mean, dude looks excellent, man. Doesn't look like he rushes too much. Doesn't put himself in danger just enough, Facts, True Raider. See it exactly as you outlined. So, we're coming up on an hour, you guys, man. I just wanted to jump in with you guys because, I was on my way to a haircut and boom, all of a sudden it came out that we're not going to have Davante Adams and Maxx Crosby, which is awful, awful news, man. I'm super upset about that. I'm say it like how I always say it, man. If you guys have not subscribed to the channel yet, please hit the subscribe button. Definitely greatly appreciate it. I'm going to be doing a watch party this Sunday against the Browns. I'll probably be on. I'm usually only on like 15 or 20 minutes before the game. But I am definitely going to be doing a watch party. If you guys do other watch parties, I ain't tripping. jump in once in a while. Just say what's up, Definitely appreciate that, man. I know before I started this channel and I was doing watch parties, I was jumping all over the place, man, just checking out what everybody's doing. So I hope to see you guys Sunday. I definitely, like always, I love you, nation, and I'll see you Sunday.